To Mali now, where Al-Qaeda-linked jihadist groups and their allies from the Tuareg ethnic group have started striking sites throughout the West African country. One of the focal points of the attacks is the northern city of Anifis. That's a key hub for government military forces and their Russian allies. In this video posted to social media, armed groups can be seen firing their weapons and shouting Islamic slogans. These attacks are the most intense flare-up of violence in Mali since the conflict began there in 2012. For more, let's cross over to our correspondent Olisa Chukwuma in Lagos. Olisa, tell us more about the significance of this latest attack.
Well, Michael, it does mean the importance of this one is that yet again, just like we saw in April earlier this year, coordinated sweeping attacks across 5 cities, places in Mali, hampering the efforts of the military junta government and leadership to really put a pin on the insurgency within the country, especially coming from the Tuareg-led rebel separatists. So in April, we saw sweeping attacks which attacked the airport in Bamako and also the killing of a Malian defense minister. And you have that a couple of months later, these latest attacks were 5 regions, including ones where we have both Russian fighters and Malian army forces based. It tells you that the situation is worsening in Mali.
You're reporting safely from Nigeria at the moment, but what does this tell us about the deepening insecurity across the Sahel, especially given the presence of Russian military support?
Well, it only points towards the fact that perhaps it's not being, maybe some analysts might say, not so effective. We have seen countries across the Sahel, just like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, all 3 of them led by military juntas after several coups, turning towards Russia, military support, as partners after turning their backs on Western allies like France and the US and the rest. But a couple of years down the line, with these countries also almost severing ties with regional bloc ECOWAS, the insecurity in places like Burkina Faso with insurgent attacks in Mali and also neighboring nearby country to Nigeria's north, Niger, only tells that the security situation in the Sahel does spill into one of grave concern. Even we do see and hear, signals from Washington about how, this region, the Sahel, has become like a hotspot for terrorism and jihadism.
Olisa, how is the civilian population interpreting these attacks? And are we at the stage where continued violence is eroding what little trust remains in state authorities and their foreign partners?
Well, that depends on who you ask. Now, you go to the city centers of Bamako. Some people will tell you, yes, they are supportive of the government. They're supportive of the junta-led military government, as long as the attacks doesn't really hit so close to home in Bamako, despite what we saw at the airport in April. But outside, Bamako in Mali, you speak to other people and you hear that things are really going bad. Don't forget, a couple of months ago, there was serious oil blockade done by these Tuareg rebels and separatists, blocking oil from getting to the main cities of Bamako, blocking trucks and goods and services. So that on the one hand, you have people who support the government but may not really feel the sting, and those who are not in Bamako, who have to contend with the daily life of living outside the fortresses of the city where you then have military support. So it can be quite mixed.
Are there any signs that insecurity is spilling into neighboring countries? And what does this mean for regional stability?
Well, the signs are quite glaring. Even right here in Nigeria, in the north, we just had the U.S. Government announcing perhaps a partial withdrawal of some troops, which were supposedly non-combatant in a couple of months since they arrived, supplying technical services, drone services to Nigeria. Also, we had the announcement also recently about the killing of the second-in-command of ISIS in Nigeria's northeastern region. That talks about the significant breakdown in terms of the security situation spilling from the Sahel and parts of the Lake Chad region into Nigeria. And Nigeria borders a country like Niger, which also is close to Burkina Faso, and then you have the extension of Mali. So the Sahel literally is what analysts would say is being overrun by Islamic jihadists, and countries like Nigeria, Chad, Mali are in the forefront of that fight.
DW correspondent Olisa Chukwuma, thank you.